So my name is Michael Gaffney, and I'm the chairman of the board and the chair of the GRC, or Government Relations Council. Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you had an opportunity to put 2020 behind you and ring in the new year with your family and friends. Last year was really challenging, to say the least, but I'm trying to stay positive and hopeful that 2021 has greater things in store for us all. We have a full agenda, so let's jump right in. I see many familiar faces and a few new faces, so I just want to take a moment to go through introductions. Again, I'm on my phone, so this is going to be difficult. So Trish, if you can just go down the list of attendees. Sure. And as Trish calls on you, can you just state your name, organization, and title? We'll keep it simple.
And only some of you are muted, so please unmute yourself when I get there. We'll go Cecil first.
Cecil Russell, community activist.
Okay. Mr. Wright.
David Wright, city councilman from Modesto, California, owner of Wright Insurance Agency.
John Beckman.
I'm Beckman, CEO of the Building Industry Association.
Thomas.
Thomas Reeves, Community and Media Relations Officer for the City of Modesto.
Vanessa.
Emo. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for the DoubleTree by Hilton Modesto.
Amy.
Amy Collier-Carroll, Public Information Officer and Legislative Affairs Director for Stanislaus County.
John.
John Valines, Chief Operating Officer of Modesto Gospel Mission.
Pete.
Pete Butler with the National Electrical Contractor Association, Northern California chapter.
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Mantero Moore, District Director for Assemblymember Adam Gray.
Thank you. Meseret.
Hi, I'm Meseret Gurmai, the Employment Specialist for the International Rescue Committee based in Turlock and Modesto.
Thank you. Chris.
My name is Chris Rakowski. I'm just a guest today.
Thank you for joining us. Dana.
Dana Ferreira, Regulatory Analyst for Modesto Irrigation District.
Thank you. Stephen, we're going to wait till Michael introduces you. I'm Trish Christensen, President and CEO of the Modesto Chamber of Commerce. Peggy, we were just doing introductions. Could you just introduce yourself real quick, please?
Yes, I'm Peggy O'Donnell with Mid Valley Promotions.
Thank you. That is everyone, Michael.
Great, thank you, and thanks everyone. Trish, if you can just send me a snippet of that attendance log, that'd be great for the minutes. Okay, so moving on, you should have received the agenda for today's meeting and the minutes from the November meeting, keeping in mind that we were dark in December, from Hope this past Monday. If there are no additions, corrections, or discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November GRC meeting.
I have muted everybody.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Thanks, Peggy. Second?
I'll second that.
Was that John?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm getting good. Thanks, John. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Thank you. Opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move into our elected official report outs. Is there anybody on from Congressman Harder's office? I didn't see Brianna or Helen. Anybody else? Okay, Lisa, you're up with Assemblyman Adam Gray's office. If you'd like to give an update.
I'm happy to. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to, in my head, determine the best way to do this in our new universe. So how about I take a few snippets from the Assembly members' press release from last week. They're in session today. So give me 1 second here to click on the right screen. I really miss having lunch with Cecil in the chamber conference room. So I'll just read a couple of lines from this, and I think this will probably give a fairly good representation. Last year, the governor made a commitment to permanently fund a new UC medical school in the Valley. True to his word, the budget maintains funding for our medical school, and we remain on track to enroll our first class of future Valley doctors in 2023. As we continue to struggle with 0% ICU capacity, and in no small part because of our doctor and nursing shortage, this is truly transformational and long overdue investment in the health and well-being of everyone who calls the Valley home. Valley also has a disproportionate number of people enrolled in Medi-Cal and elevated rates of diabetes, impacting our most vulnerable communities. I have fought for years to expand Medi-Cal to cover continuous glucose monitors. It's a common sense reform that 40 other states, Medicare and every commercial health plan in the state have already adopted. More than 20 other legislators joined me last month in urging the governor to make this happen in the budget after revelations that over 1/3 of COVID-19 deaths are linked to patients with diabetes. Today, the governor took the decisive action to provide Medi-Cal patients with diabetes the same standard of care as everyone else. This cannot be overstated. Chronic illness and premature deaths will be prevented because of this reform. Finally, I was able to hear the governor rebuke those who have called for tax increases to make up for the budget deficit that simply has not materialized. Increasing taxes during a global pandemic and economic recession is moronic. We should be looking for opportunities to lower taxes as families continue to struggle to make ends meet. I hope Congress is paying attention to the governor's comments as well. Tax increases are off the table. UC Merced Chancellor Dr. Juan Sanchez Munoz applauded the governor and Assemblymember Gray for their ongoing commitment to address the Valley's longstanding shortage in the healthcare providers. So that was our press release last week. And as all of you know, everything in California and the nation changes every day. So I don't have any new press releases today. I'm just going from last week's press release to update you. And any issues that the chamber decides they'd like to hone in on or have more information on, certainly Mike and your committee let me know, and I will be as responsive as possible and follow up with the assembly member. He was hoping to call into today's meeting, but they are still in Sacramento, so it's kind of making it a little challenging.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Lisa, for your continued support. Any questions for Lisa? Okay, moving on to Assembly Member Heath Flora's office. I didn't see Jason Randy on. Okay, any city council members? We can start with Councilman Wright.
As you know, we have 3 new council members, and we actually are working pretty good together, and have a good relationship with both our new council members. A couple things, as you all know, we have a mayor's race going on right now. February 2nd, ballots will be all in. We'll know who our new mayor is. What's really nice about the city, we started off with about $18 million in reserves, which has really helped us during this pandemic, and don't know what the future holds, but I think financially we're in pretty good shape. And then one of the big issues that our new council members and our old council members are really working on is Briggsmore Avenue. We want to see Briggsmore get cleaned up, fences replaced, and make that a very attractive thoroughfare throughout the city compared to it has been for the last 50 years or so. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Can I interrupt for a moment, please? Can I ask who just called in?
Hi, Trish, it's Angela with Comcast.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. And Renee, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hey, thank you, Trish. Good morning. My name is Renee Gutierrez. I'm a planner with the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commissions. We manage ACE trains and Amtrak San Joaquins through Stanislaus County, and we have a station in Modesto and a feature station downtown with ACE trains.
Thank
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning still, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Michael, Helen was having a hard time getting in. I just threw her update in the chat box. Are you able to open that?
Oh, goodness, I cannot.
Okay. I'll read it for everyone. Representative Harder will continue to serve on the House Agriculture Committee and was appointed to the Appropriations Committee. Thanks to the stimulus bill passed late last year, nearly $30 million in federal housing support will flow to the Central Valley. The funding is made available through the Treasury Department's Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP, and will help people struggling to pay rent and utilities as a result of the pandemic. Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns. All the best, Helen.
Great. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. Any questions for Councilman Wright? Okay. Are there any county supervisors on? I didn't see any. Okay, moving into city staff. Thomas, would you like to give us an update? I didn't see Jalen join.
Michael, that's all right. I'll defer to the council member. I think we're good for now.
Okay. Any county staff? Amy, you joined. Would you like to give us an update?
I hadn't really prepared an update, but I will just tell you, we are, running 125 miles an hour on the county response to COVID-19. Obviously, we've got our vaccination clinics going and have now been vaccinating residents over the age of 65, as well as any additional people who are eligible in phase 1A of the vaccination plan. We're also working on the emergency rental assistance program that was mentioned just a moment ago, and lots of other beneficial programs to help our community survive this pandemic.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions for Stanislaus County? Okay, we'll move into utilities. Dana, would you like to give us an update on MID?
I have no update. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. AT&T, I didn't see Ken, but Comcast is on. Angela, would you like to give us an update? Maybe on mute.
Angela, I muted you. I'm sorry.
Okay, we can come back to.
I'll let you know if I see her
Okay,
unmute.
no problem. Okay. So normally we would move into an update from the League of California Cities, but Stephen Coles is with us today, and he is our guest speaker. He is the Central Valley Division Regional Public Affairs Manager with the League, and he has a presentation for us. And Trish, are you able to share?
He's going to share himself. I just gave you that power. Stephen, you're still muted. There you go.
There we go. All right. Well, hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. And thank you. Appreciate you having me on to talk today. Obviously, the legislative year is very new. There's only been about 300 bills have been dropped, and usually there's close to 2,000. So there's still a lot of things that are going to happen in the future. But what I'll give you today is a little bit of update of what's going on up in Sacramento, some of the things that the League is looking at, and some of the things I think that you, as business owners, may be interested in hearing about. So let's go and let me see if I can find this right here. Okay. One second, please. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Little screen thing's gotten in my way here. Okay, so again, I am the Regional Public Affairs Manager for the League of California Cities. Little personal history quickly. I was on the Planning Commission and then the City Council for the City of Houston. I worked closely with the League on, I was on conferences, sat on policy committees, had testified in Sacramento on housing issues because that was my passion. And then fortunately in 2008, I was hired by the League. So I had to step down from my position on the City Council of Houston. So as you know, the legislature returned on Monday, and it was a week late because of the whole COVID situation. There is testing going on. In the Senate, they're getting tested every time they return to the Capitol. In the Assembly, they're getting tested once a week. Anybody entering the Capitol must have their temperature checked now. The Senate can vote remotely, but the Assembly can only attend meetings if they're informational hearings. They must be present to vote. The reason for this is that the Speaker of the Assembly, Member Rendon, did not feel that it may not be legal for them to be able to vote remotely, so he does require that everybody be in chambers, whereas in the Senate, Senator Atkins felt like it was appropriate for them to be able to vote remotely for health and safety issues also. As you know, Governor Newsom unveiled his record budget last Friday. The budget includes $164.5 billion in general fund projects, and then $26 billion in reserves and surplus, which we will speak about later. So the LAO prefers to call it a windfall because it's just one-time money. It's not ongoing funds that are coming in. And there's actually an ongoing structural deficit in the budget, and it probably has been for years. The windfall is not just from the past year, it's actually accumulation of 3 fiscal years, and then actually for 2 fiscal years, and then projected revenues for 21-22 fiscal year. Now, by formula, some of these funds are automatically allocated, and there's not much the legislature can actually do about it to change that formula, unless they meet certain kind of findings, probably as like economic deficit, and maybe with the COVID pandemic and things like that. One of those is Proposition 2, which is a Budget Stabilization Act. So that requires a certain percentage of the excessive revenues from capital gains go into the rainy day fund. Now, what this is done for is because, as you're probably aware, is that the legislature has a habit of when they get a lot of funds come in, when there's an increase in revenues, they will tend to create new programs. And then when the revenues fall off, which they always do, then they're all like, well, don't touch my program. And so it causes a real problem up there in Sacramento. So this is able to put money into the rainy day fund to be able to use for future uses, just as they did last year. And then, of course, we have Prop 98 that requires approximately 40% of the general fund revenues to go to education. So there's a difference between what is being said about what the surplus or quote windfall is. We understand the windfall might actually be larger than what's currently being stated. It might be as much as $30 billion, but we won't know, obviously. But the legislature seems to want to make sure that half of that money goes into the rainy day fund and the rest of it is spent on either new programs or current budget. And then with that money going into the rainy day fund, the fund is actually be larger than it was last year when $8 billion was used to address the pandemic. There's also sometimes the LAO numbers a little more accurate or more honest, I guess you might want to say, than what comes out from the Department of Finance. I don't want to say honest, just they look at it to look at different things, different perspectives of what might be coming down the road and what might have already been happening this year. So some of the housing and affordable things are going on. There's a proposal to extend the eviction moratorium that's going on right now. We'll speak about this later. There's a couple of bills that have to cover with this, and they're using a lot of the federal funds that are coming in. The housing accountability unit. Now, what they wanted to do is to give technical assistance to cities, which obviously is always welcome. Then monitor the city's land use practices, such as ordinance and building restrictions and things like that. And they enforce existing housing laws. And so the $2 million to go to the Fair Employment and Housing Connecticut Education Program, and prosecute violators of California fair housing laws. As you know, there's been a big call for cities to be more open with their building and their zoning and stuff like that, when in actuality the cities have been doing everything they can do as far as fees and stuff like that. There's something that we feel that there's a graph sent out a couple of years ago from HCD that showed the housing building in the state of California, and it was the curve was exactly like the economy was. It was a downward curve. And cities don't build houses. We want to constantly remind them of that. It's developers who build those houses, and obviously we would like to not stand in their way, but we also want to make sure we still can retain local control to make sure that we have smart growth. So other areas there just to try to build to spur construction housing. One of these two here at the bottom is something that we are familiar with here in Stanislaus County, the Home Key, which is where the county purchases motels and hotels to convert them into interim and long-term housing. And sometimes there's concerns with that because they feel like there's not a lot of communication with the cities about what's going to go on, but hopefully it's going to be running smoothly. And then $750 million to help with behavioral health treatments. A lot of that obviously has to do with our homeless population. So the Housing Accountability Unit. So in the budget, the governor proposed the funding for this because previously it did not have the funding it needed. HCD, which is the Housing and Community Development, and the Attorney General, they didn't have the staffing or the funds to be able to do with what they were tasked with by the governor. So, and the governor now is having feeling sometimes the city's not being genuine in their planning and their zoning and stuff like that. Sometimes the governor wants to monitor these city council and board of supervisors meetings to look for those violations. He doesn't want to have to wait to hear about it on the news. Now, there's a famous case, the city of Huntington Beach. They did tell HCD, we're not going to plan or we're not going to build our RHNA numbers, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. And so they said, go ahead and fine us, go ahead and give us penalties, but we're refusing to build those homes or plan and zone for them. For those you don't know, Regional Housing Needs Allocation is the Department of Finance allocates out so many housing units to the city, to the counties, and the local LAFCOs distribute those out to the cities themselves. Now, the vast majority of the cities are following the letter of the law, and we feel like the governor is using penalties more than he is doing, helping us with resources to be able to meet our needs for building affordable housing up and down the state. So here's some of the housing bills that we are looking at. So I mentioned earlier about the governor's talking about extending the time for be able to give tenant relief for as far as like, you know, eviction and things like that. Well, this bill currently, the previous moratorium was until February 1st of this year. This would extend it to January 1st of next year for the landlord to file to evict somebody. So currently, if you don't know, a renter has to pay 25% of their rent, and all they have to do is they have to sign a declaration saying that COVID-19 has affected their finances in some form, that by losing their job or something like that. They don't have to provide any documentation or anything. They just have to sign the declaration. This bill would repeal that requirement, and all they would have to just do is to pay their 25%. Senator Caballero, SB 6 would allow residential housing in commercial zones, especially where there's like big boxes or things like that who've gone out of business and been shuttered, to convert that, rezone that for residential housing. SB 9 would allow duplexes on single family lots. I don't know exactly how this works. I said this is all new, but I knew previously a lot had to be vacant for 5 years, and then the city could rezone it for duplexes. Our main concern with this is it's completely ministerial, so there's no review allowed at all. And obviously, we like to have the control to be able to have some kind of oversight on the duplexes or any construction. SB 10, that would allow apartments in single-family zones only if the parcel is located in the transit-rich or jobs-rich area, and this would not be subject to CEQA. And that tells me this is probably going to have a little bit of trouble in the legislature, because CEQA is like the third rail in government. You don't mess with it unless you're going to build a basketball arena or a football stadium in Southern California. And then SB 55 would prohibit development in high fire area. Now, some people think, well, that's only going to affect the mountain and the foothills. Well, that's not true. Those high fire hazard severity zones reach into many of our communities. And then the problem we see with this also is those cities and communities still have to meet their RHNA numbers. So you won't be able to build in a certain part, but you have to build somewhere else where it may not be the best place to build. As far as transportation and communication, the governor is obviously, you've heard that there's been some pushback on the governor's push to give $1.5 billion for electric vehicles and the zero emission targets. Some legislature feel like that money would be better spent to help businesses in the state of California and to help our citizens who are facing an economic situation created by COVID. Obviously, the gas tax is going to be much lower than it was before because nobody's traveling. I realized I went to Costco last couple of months, been going to Costco, and there are no lines at Costco like there used to be. So obviously, people are buying a lot less gas. And then there's money to address traffic congestion and other projects that support walking and biking in our communities. Intercity rail, which obviously is very important to us in the Central Valley. Broadband infrastructure, and then state infrastructure investments also. Yeah, you've heard that the governor wants to put out $600 state payments to low-income workers. And that's probably going to change a little bit more now since we have the President-elect has proposed a $1.9 trillion stimulus program. And then this should be of interest to use $575 million for small businesses and nonprofit grants. I don't know if it's still relevant, but I know in the beginning of this that chambers of commerce were not eligible for those funds, for nonprofit funds, but I don't know if that has changed now or not. And then propose significant tax credits, exclusions. This could affect the local sales tax and property tax revenues, which obviously we know have already been hard hit in our communities and affect everything on services that the cities provide. So the governor is going to provide more money for OSHA. one of the consequences of this could be to help them enforce the COVID-19 regulations that, last year were put in effect, such as reporting and things like that. Other things for positions for workers' compensation, and then for pension contributions, and then to reduce the state's unfunded liability. Unfortunately, there's nothing in there to help the cities with their unfunded liability that they face. Over the years, they've been increasingly forced to pay more and more into the CalPERS and into their pension funds. It's not just CalPERS. And this is going to be tough decisions for the city council. I'm glad to hear that Modesto has the reserves that it has, but as we've seen in the past, those reserves can go down very quickly. And the city's going to make the tough decisions. Where are they going to try to make the cuts? And a lot of times it ends up being public safety, because public safety is most costly area of the general fund, cost to the general fund. This has to do with fire and protection. I don't know if Trish sent out this PowerPoint, but if you have any questions on this stuff, you want to know more, please let me know in the future. I'm just trying to hit the high points for you. This is that the courts are facing a very large shortfall in their funding, and so this will provide some increased funding for them. And then, as we know, there's always a lot going on with officer-involved shootings and use of force up in Sacramento. This is some more funding to help increase that for investigations. And then they're going to be looking at closing a second prison after they've already started to close the one in Tracy. So those of you familiar with the California Voters' Right Act, what that is it's different than the federal Voters' Right Act in that in California, a plaintiff is allowed to recover all their legal costs. And so you're probably familiar with here in Stanislaus County, every city, school district, special districts were sued, requiring that they switch to district elections instead of doing at large. And so the city of Santa Monica has decided that they don't believe that they have diluted the voting power. And so they were sued by Mr. Chuckman, who's made quite a nice income up and down the state, suing cities, counties, and special districts. And they felt like they were fine with having at-large elections. The court agreed with the plaintiff in order for the city to switch to the bi-district election. There's a lot more behind this, but I'm not going to bore you guys all with it. But so the city appealed. They argued that it really didn't make a big difference. Even if they did increase their voting power to 30%, it wasn't going to make a difference in the outcome of the elections. And the Court of Appeals agreed with them. They said, yeah, it will increase the amount of people who are their voting power, but it's really not going to make a difference in the election. So the plaintiffs again appealed and is now sitting before the California Supreme Court. And then when the governor did his executive orders, Senate member Gallagher sued the governor, saying he felt like he'd overstepped his authority with the executive orders. And the court agreed with him. They said that yes, the governor can amend or suspend laws, but he cannot make new laws. Some of the examples when he amended laws were when you look at the Brown Act, which would allow councils and board of directors and other boards to be able to meet via Zoom and social media. There's also a law that was passed last year that allows elected officials to discuss on social media issues that might or are currently coming before the council. They just can't discuss it among themselves. But the legislature is looking to address, has already, and addressing new bills to address the executive orders. Legislature last year really fell out of the decision process. They felt like the governor using the executive orders to bypass the legislature. Here's some dates for coming up for legislators. February 19th is the last day for bills to be introduced. And then when they come back, the 6th of June is the last day for the bills to pass out of their House of Origin. Then the budget has to be passed by the 15th. And then you probably heard if they don't pass the budget, then they say they're going to withhold their pay, but that has never actually happened. And then the 10th of October is the last day for the government to sign, veto, or just let the bills become law without comment. And with that, I'm open with any questions. And again, I want to thank you very much for inviting me to be your speaker today. And let me know if you have any questions.
Feel free to unmute yourselves if you would like to chime in.
You guys are easy. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody.
Michael, you're
Hey,
muted. Michael, you're muted.
I was just going to
Oh.
ask if Stephen could make the presentation available, like email it to the group or to the chamber.
He
And
gave it to me. I was looking to drop it in the chat just now. I will forward it to everyone who's in attendance today.
Thank you, Trish.
And thank you, Stephen. Sorry, I was on mute too. That was really insightful, and we look forward to continue to hear from you and your monthly updates as we move through the legislative session. So we'll move on to announcements. I'd like to make one announcement. When I accepted the chairman position, I realized that in the bylaws, I'm listed twice as a voting member for the Chamber's Political Action Committee, and that's obviously not good business. So the executive committee met, and we've decided to offer the chair position for the EDC to Bill Robinson, who used to chair our ambassador team. And we've offered the chair position for the GRC to John Valines, who's been supporting the chamber for many years and is now officially a board member. And they both accepted. So we're really excited about this change, and I'm confident that you'll be in good hands with Bill and John moving forward. So congratulations to both of you. John, I don't know if you want to say anything, but I'm really excited for this change.
yeah, I'll just say, as most of you know, I've been working on the GRC for 6-7 years now or so, and you'll just keep moving it forward. I think, Michael, you've done a great job in picking it up last year or so, and I'll be working with Michael a lot, and we'll just kind of move forward. So if any of you have ideas for topics, or your organization wants to speak, or your congressman or so forth wants to speak, let me know. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, John. I know we do have a couple speakers lined up, or at least in mind, but we do have plenty of opportunity towards the later spring and summer months into the fall. So I will be working with John to fill those spots. So please reach out via email to John or Trish or I with any ideas that you may have. And Amy, I may be reaching out to you. I caught wind that the Modesto Rotary Club is going to be inviting a speaker in from the county to talk about COVID. You mentioned that briefly, but more in detail about what Stanislaus County Health is doing to vaccinate folks and what their plan is. So I may email you offline if you don't mind.
Sure. Let me know what you need. Yeah, we're excited. Our public health director, Marianne Lilly, and Dr. Ray Champagne, our public health officer, have prepared a presentation that they'll be giving at next week's Modesto Rotary Club meeting on the 19th. It is open to all other Rotarians. So if anybody in this meeting is a member of another Rotary Club, you should be getting an email with the invitation and Zoom link so that you can listen in.
Yep.
But yeah, feel free to just let me know what you're looking for, Mike, and I'm happy to help you.
Yeah, that is true. I did receive an invitation. They extended it to other Rotary clubs. So I'll be attending, and I look forward to hearing from them. And then we'd love to hear about the county's vision and plan for vaccination. So I'll talk to you offline. Trish, do you have any final comments before we adjourn?
Excuse me. I just emailed everyone the PowerPoint that Stephen shared today, and I copied him. So if you have follow-up questions for him, you can also reach him via email. I would say check our community calendar on our website. We are up and running in every way, shape, and form possible. Our Women in Business program is meeting monthly. Our Rising Professionals is meeting monthly. Our Tech Connect is meeting monthly. We're getting ready to launch a Modesto Chamber Leadership series in partnership with the Leadership Modesto Steering Committee. And Kate Trompeter will be our facilitator. Our green team is meeting. We just green certified our 4th business on the California Green Business Network. So things are hopping and constantly. We are also bringing Business U back, and Deborah Hendricks, who's launched her own consulting business, will be doing a 2-part series on leadership in the workplace. So we have some great things happening, and hope you guys register because they're virtual. We're doing them all with a pre-registration to kind of control the safety and avoid Zoom bombing as much as we can. To note that about 20 minutes into this meeting, I locked the meeting so additional people could not get in, and that will become a protocol that we follow going forward. So everything we have going on, you can find the registration links on our website and our community calendar, and they're slowly being added to our featured calendar. So happy to engage with you in multiple ways. Join us anytime.
Thanks, Trish. Any final questions from anybody else? Just a quick reminder that our next meeting is Friday, February 19th. And again, it'd be really great if we can have somebody from Stanislaus County, and I'll connect with Amy on that to learn more about COVID. And as David Wright mentioned, cast your vote for the mayor's runoff. I think he said by February 2nd. I've sent mine in. It's very important for those of you who live in Modesto.
Absolutely.
If nobody else has anything to add, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 12:11. Have a safe and wonderful weekend, 3-day weekend for most of us, I think.
Yes, thank you. Nice to see everyone.
Take
Happy
care-
New
take
Year.
care, everybody. Have a nice long weekend.
Thanks,
you,
you
everyone.
too.